A small book rests in lamplight, paper smells of linen and ink. You thumb its quiet pages, a soft crest gleams like a moon. This is the second episode of my new series about everyday unexceptional object through history. Please like and subscribe. Set it on the table, and it looks unassuming, a palm-sized booklet, corners softened by pockets and journeys. The cover carries a crest, or a star, or a simple name of a country, nothing loud, only a hush of authority. Inside, paper that feels faintly like cloth, numbers that march in tidy lines, a photo where your gaze sits still. You hold it and hear, perhaps, the whisper of stations and stairwells, a stamp coming down with a soft thud like distant rain. This is a book that knows doors, doors that open politely, doors that ask questions, doors that remember where you've been. It is not a diary, yet it keeps a story, not a ticket, yet it guides the way. In its thread and ink, the world is stitched together, carefully, quietly, so that one person can cross from one shade of sky to another, and be known. Act 2. Long before it wore a uniform cover and an emblem in gold, the passport began as a letter, a promise written by a ruler to the world beyond his gaze. In the ancient Near East, a traveler named Nehemiah carried a letter from the Persian king in the 5th century BCE, asking provincial officials to let him pass and to keep him safe. It was not yet a booklet, nor standardized, but it carried the same soft magic, let this person be recognized. In medieval Europe, journeys were practical and perilous. Roads bent around forests and feudal boundaries, a traveler might move through churchlands, merchant towns, and tiny lordships before the sun set. Kings and councils issued safe conducts, sealed papers that soothed the nerves of gatekeepers. Monks carried letters on pilgrimage, merchants folded permits into wool-lined purses. The paper was heavier then, the ink more fragrant. Yet in the lamplight of a hostelry or by the hearth in a priory, the idea was already clear: mobility needed memory, recognition needed writing. By the 14th and 15th centuries, the English crown began granting documents that would later lend a name to our modern booklet. In the 1410s-1420s, under Henry V, royal letters of protection and passports were issued for travel abroad. Across Europe, city-states and kingdoms maintained their own versions: patrician seals in Venice, notarial endorsements in French towns, the cautious scrutiny of Habsburg frontiers. The documents varied in size and script, but each performed a small ritual at border posts. A piece of paper met a human face, and the human face became legible to officials and guards. The 17th and 18th centuries brought broader routes and brighter maps. Empires and trade companies stitched sea lanes across oceans, coaches rattled over improved roads. Identification was still local, but the habit of carrying papers spread. After revolutions and wars remade Europe in the late 18th and early 19th centuries, states grew more attentive to who entered and who departed. Passports appeared, disappeared, and reappeared as rules loosened and tightened with the times. In some decades, one could roam with scarcely a question; in others, officials looked closely, pens poised above registers. Steam changed the rhythm of movement. Trains in the 19th century drew borders closer, steamships hummed between continents. Port cities organized offices to check names and spellings, inland stations learned the choreography of inspection. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, standardized photographs crept into documents, faces captured in sepia, ears carefully visible, eyes fixed forward. The document was becoming more personal, more bound to a particular body, yet still meant to soothe the crossing rather than stir it. Then the early 20th century, wars and treaties, lines redrawn, and masses on the move. During and after the First World War, governments reintroduced stricter passport requirements. In the 1920s, under the guidance of the League of Nations, countries met to discuss uniform sizes, consistent languages, and recognizable formats. Out of those conferences arose the familiar booklet, pages for personal details, pages for visas and stamps, pages that invited a calm, predictable ritual at desk and counter. The passport had found its shape. Through the later 20th century, as commercial aviation rose like a daily tide of wings, the booklet adapted again. Machines learned to read, the lines of text along the bottom of the identity page became a script for scanners, standard across nations. In the early 2000s, a small symbol bloomed on many covers, indicating a chip within, an electronic passport that held the same facts with steadier accuracy. Yet despite those quiet technologies, the human drama remained gentle and familiar. A traveler steps forward, offers a booklet, meets a pair of eyes, and is waved through to a new address beneath the same sky. Act 3. Imagine a morning in the 1890s, when women's skirts swish along polished floors of a consulate office. A clerk in a high collar dips his pen and writes a name with looping care. The photograph, if required, is stiff and formal. A lens cap is removed and replaced like a heartbeat. Outside, a horse-drawn cab waits. The sea smells faintly of coal. A passport is folded into a leather wallet, and someone walks out a door into a world of steam whistles and telegrams. Now a station in the 1930s. The lighting is tungsten soft, the benches are dark wood, worn smooth. A jazz melody leaks from a cafe near the tracks. A traveler in a narrow tie and a wool coat keeps a passport safe inside an inner pocket. Tickets are tall, pale cards punched by a conductor with the gentle click of a pocket press. Borders are complicated this decade, paper is checked, stamps are gathered like small, square constellations. The person moves forward, glancing at a calendar with the year printed boldly at the top, and steps across. We shift decades again. The 1960s bring airports with broad windows and a glamour of departure boards that flip and clatter. Suitcases become lighter, skirts and suits turn sharper and brighter. A family approaches the passport desk, the parent keeps a firm, friendly hold on a small hand. The booklet is blue, or green, or maroon, depending on the country. The officer wears a cap with a brim smooth as a lake. A stamp falls with a soft percussion, and the child's eyes widen, already dreaming of the long corridor that leads to the plane. In a quiet corner of the 1980s, a student finishing university flips through a passport to count the visas, inking their 20s in a private tally of ferries and youth hostels, dictionaries, and notebooks. They tape a boarding pass stub beside a page that shows entry into a city whose name is full of consonants. A new language is starting to fit in their mouth like a song they are still learning. The passport lives in a zippered pouch, close to the body, warm from the day's walking. And here is a small apartment in the 2000s, morning light rinsing a kitchen table. A traveler prints an itinerary beside a cup of coffee. Their passport carries a chip now. A small emblem on the cover resembles a tiny gate. At the airport, automated gates blink patiently. A photo is taken again, quickly, and the booklet's information meets a computer's memory. Yet the ritual still runs on breath and voice, a hello, a thank you, a nod, the friendly echo of wheels on tile. Beyond the early 2000s, the scenes keep flowing. Couples visit relatives across seas, a musician tours modest halls and tucks the passport into a guitar case, a nurse leaves one city for another to study and return with skillful hands. In some places, regional agreements soften crossings. Within groups of neighboring states, the booklet may stay closed while an ID card travels instead, the passport reserved for farther lines. In other places, new stamps decorate its pages like the rings in a tree, visible markers of time spent waiting in line, gazing at posters of local landscapes, breathing in the specific smell of each building's air, metal and floor polish, coffee and paper. Mostly, it is ordinary, dawn taxis, plastic bins for belts and shoes, a polite reminder to look into the camera. But within those ordinaries lies a tender pattern. The passport rests in a pocket near the heart, it emerges when asked, it retreats again. It accompanies reunions at arrivals halls where bouquets rustle and tears are soft. It waits in drawers between journeys, growing a little older while calendars flip. You may enter, it has heard many times, and every permission has been a small comfort, a thread drawn from one shore to another. Act 4. In a world of maps and names, the passport became a steady symbol. It says, in its quiet way, you belong somewhere, and you are known. The cover bears the mark of a state, yet the pages open toward other states, a paradox resolved at every counter by ordinary people. Over time, it has meant safety to some, opportunity to others, and routine to many. It is at once humble and solemn, as if a library card had learned to speak to borders. Its value has shifted with eras. In times of open rails and friendly seas, the passport felt like a curious accessory, a token you carried just in case. In stricter decades, it became essential, a key that must be kept at hand. Technology layered itself gently onto the ritual, machine-readable lines, digital photographs, embedded chips. The booklet learned to converse with glass and green lights as easily as with human eyes. And yet the symbol stayed soft, not a drum, but a heartbeat, not a lock, but a key. For many, the passport is also a memory album, even if it rarely shows itself as such. A faded stamp can call up the squeak of a tram, the taste of a street-side pastry, the feel of a hotel blanket after a long flight. Some passports remain largely unstamped, travel within a region, or journeys that do not require visas, and even then, the emptiness is a kind of tenderness, a promise held in reserve. The passport does not demand adventures, it simply allows them to unfold without fuss. Look at the range of its colors across the world: deep maroons, ocean blues, forest greens, the occasional black, hues chosen to harmonize with tradition, practicality, and climate. Inside, the designs reveal landscapes, bridges, birds, constellations, and rivers, artwork that murmurs of home while the holder is far from it. Each spread says, modestly, we know where you come from, carry that with you. As generations have passed, the passport has reflected broader hopes, that strangers can become neighbors, that journeys can be ordinary rather than extraordinary, that identity can be recognized without fear. It's not a perfect instrument, it inherits the world's complexities and inequalities. Yet even with those truths, the passport's everyday purpose remains gentle, to formalize a welcome, to let movement become a habit of peace. Act 5. Now return to the table where you first set it down. The lamp circle is small and golden, the room grows quieter with each breath. You thumb the cover once more, linen smooth, warm from your hands. And the booklet seems to settle, pages whispering shut. Somewhere, a plane lifts into night, somewhere, a border window clicks closed. Here, the passport rests, a tidy promise folded in thread and paper. Let your thoughts travel only as far as they wish. The world will wait until morning. Sleep comes with its own soft stamp, entry granted.